Hello and welcome to another episode of Anomalies. When I think about how to explain this show, an anomaly is like a twist and turn from what's usual or natural. And today we're going to take a real twist and turn from what's usual and natural. I'm one of your hosts, Dan Hall, here from Olympia, Washington, and my co-host is Gwen Farrell from beautiful downtown Phoenix. How are you doing, Gwen?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good, pretty good for an old guy. So today we have the ultimate mystery, the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. And Teodora Hadjiyska is our guest, and we want to welcome her to our show, and she's going to help us unravel that mystery. Teddy, thanks for being on the show. Welcome.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
inviting me. That's a
Thank you.
very
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Tell
to
us,
try to talk about the Dyatlov Pass in a podcast is really difficult
I bet
because
it is too much info.
we have people
Absolutely.
that haven't heard about it and people that are eager to hear something that they don't know about it. But the people that are obsessed with the case, they know a lot. And people that are not, they don't know
Mm.
anything. So it's really hard to put them on common numerator, all of them.
So,
Right.
so with that in mind, give us a resource beside yourself, website, whatever, that people can go and get an overview for what this is all about. Just tell us what that is, and that'll be kind of a starting point.
The
Getlockpass.com, would that be one?
Yeah, Dyatlovpass.com is the place where I started just publishing all the resources that I was finding, because at the time when I got sucked into this mystery, there was only the Russian forums. And I was trying myself to understand what happened in 59 and how these people died. And it's not just the account. You don't read about Dyatlov Pass from articles, because the article gives you some clickbait like, oh, the 65 cold case was solved and it's an avalanche, it's a Yetis, this is that. If you read articles, that case is solved, but it's so far from solved. It's the coldest case, and I think it's going to be the ultimate case, because nothing can explain the weirdness in this. But you understand how weird it is by reading the documents, looking at the photos, not just listening to someone what they think happened or what their theory is, because they're going to tell you only what fits their presumption, their speculation. But the case deserves your attention to the sources, because maybe you will see it in a different way. And it's 65 years until now, no one can solve the case. I
Hmm.
I lived without any theory for 10 years. And then something happened that we're going to mention what I think. And I wrote a book with a man who died before the book was out. So I'm the only author right now that is pushing this theory. But I'm not looking just for that. I'm just looking for something that doesn't fit this theory. But we're talking about the accident that the Americans started doing movies and writing books about Yeti, infrasound being the reason, the cause of death. Um, what else? The Russians, even their thickest book, it's about KGB and CIA meeting on the location, and something went wrong. They were exchanging beta isotopes, and that's why, well, something went wrong and they killed uh, some of them, and the rest just died from pure fear and hypothermia. It's very messy. They didn't die in the same way. So for the
Hmm.
people that don't know, why are we talking about this case? Why is it called Dyatlov Pass? Just in a gist, this happened in 59. It was the Soviet Union, and it was a bunch of kids. Well, they were students, so they were not kids, from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Back then, when you go in February in very cold conditions in Siberia, you don't have the equipment and resources or can get the permits to go on your own. Like, it's not modern days, bunch of friends decide to go there and they go. You have to be member of a sport club the section for hiking. You have to be organized. All of them had the classification of this degree of difficulty trek in the winter, skiing in the winter. They knew each other. One of them had to make the plan and get the permit and invite and approve the members of his group and take full responsibility of their route in front of the party, Komsomol, routing commission and everything. And that person was Igor Dyatlov. So we talk about this case. The case is named after the name of the group. Back then it was the Dyatlov group because Igor Dyatlov was the leader. And where they were going is a mountain that's not very high. All of the mountains there, they look almost like the same, and they're only 1,000 meters high. So it's not something very picturesque and dangerous and steep cliffs or something like that, but it's very, very far away of any population point. And back then, because of the Cold War, just because it was 59, the maps were not very thorough and accurate. There was no GPS, no mapping, nothing. Nothing helped you find your way among this just vast Siberia. And the weather is just brutal.
Terrible.
It's
Yeah,
minus
terrible.
50 Celsius, wind, and you have to carry everything, the tent and the wood that you're going to cook on there was a heating stove that was suspended inside the tent. Every little detail about the way that they were hiking back then in 59 gives beginning of a different theory. Like even the stove, their theories that the stove smoked them and they couldn't breathe. That's why they tore the tent. But let's get back from the beginning. What happened in 59?
Well, let me ask you one question before we go there. Why did you, or how did you get interested in this mystery?
I'm a traveler mountaineer. And because I'm too lazy to carry ropes and to learn to climb, and I mean, things happen to me. It's not just that I'm afraid. I don't climb. So me and my boyfriend at the time got interested in volcanoes. So we started going in volcanoes. They're not very high, and you go and you look in the crater, and they're in very exotic countries like the Philippines, like interesting. Indonesia is our favorite destination. So in one of these expeditions, but we're going for months. It's not like we're taking vacation. Neither of us works in an office, so we don't have 5 to 9 job, so we can travel. That's very fortunate. So we go without a return ticket for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And we just love going on volcanoes. So in Indonesia, my 3rd time, his 5th time, we go in a very small island. We look into the crater, we go back, we hitchhike, we go in the back of a truck to get to the boat that has to take us to the mainland. And the brakes of the truck don't take. I mean, it's a runaway truck. So we don't have brakes. So we started just swerving down the mountain, and the driver, to save us all, because they train them to jump if the truck is a runaway truck, and we're on the back of the truck, not even in the cabin. He was supposed to jump from the truck, but because he knows that he's carrying white people in the back, he slammed the truck on the rock face of the mountain, and I died. I mean, I died because they didn't even call a surgeon or a ER. They called the priest for me because I had failed chest and I was unconscious, and I was really, really bad. I mean, really bad. And so my lifestyle.
Tell me one thing I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but because you had this horrible accident, as you recuperated, that's where your interest in this mystery came. Would that be a true statement?
When they took me into the wherever ER, just on the stretcher, someone said, "Have you been to the Dyatlov Pass?"
Oh,
And I was like, "What? Who? Give me
what the hell
morphine.
was
I
that?
don't
Yeah.
care." So because I was broken in such a way, and the person knew this incident, he made a half joke that I'm so broken like the hikers of this
Oh.
incident. And well, it was a bad joke because none of them survived. So,
You did, though. That's
You
fortunate.
did.
I, yeah.
You
Well,
did.
one of the girls had as many broken ribs as me, but one of the pieces pierced her heart. So
Oh my
she
gosh.
died from, yeah, she didn't live more than 20 minutes. So basically, I was lucky that my blow was from the side, not from the left where my heart is, but from the other
The other
side.
side. Yeah.
But my lung collapsed and I had broken scapula, basically, and the collarbone. So this arm was totally floating. I didn't have lung, and this arm was broken. Even
Hmm.
now, I have 7 operations on this arm, but I still don't have scapula. So basically, I was in a very bad shape. But they mentioned the Dyatlov Pass. If I
Yeah,
have,
interesting, interesting. I want to tell our viewers about your book, which is amazing. It is, there's so much information in it, and I highly recommend it. But I want to ask you, it has a very interesting title. And the title, I think, is 1079, The Overwhelming Force of Dyatlov Pass. Can you explain to us, what does that title mean? Why did you choose that title?
I never thought I'm going to write a book because my
Mhm.
specialty is doing websites. So when I started translating the case files and trying to understand what happened, and I have OCD, so I have to put everything in order. I have to line it up, categorize, and everything, put it uh, so I can find it, because I don't retain information. I have to be able to find it. And all the sources were floating, links don't work, forums are moving, sources are not there. I couldn't remember. And even to this day, you will hear people saying, I read someplace. Well, where did you read it? Because for this case, so you don't repeat legends or create legends. You have to be able to, well, stick to the sources because they're weird enough. You don't have to add to the discrepancies that are in the case. So all of the books and all of the movies were called Dead Mountain or Mountain of the Dead or Hulatzakhul or something like a catchy phrase. And when I finally decided, because it was my idea, that I have to put everything in a book because people read books. And even though I made a mountain of information, people cannot make their way what to look for, what to read next to what. So my idea was to make a chronological account of everything that happened, not the way we think it happened, but everything we know. So it's like the real names, the real data, all the information, because it's all over the place, but only strict data. And only in the last chapter, because readers would kill me if I make
Yes,
them read a cold case for hundreds of pages and then
yes.
don't leave them without any ending.
Right.
But actually, we were really, no, it's a groundbreaking account of events. I mean, in the last chapter, what we think happened, and I keep finding evidence. So back to the name of the book, I didn't want every possible title is taken, like okay, Dyatlov 9 and the dead and the everything. And it sounds the same. Everybody's talking about some horror that happened there. But you can't tell fiction from non-fiction. And that's why we name it with the mark that all of the maps at the time of their death in
Okay.
case files call the place where they died. They died on mountain 79, and that's
Oh,
because this is how high it is. And this
The
is
altitude, yes.
the altitude in meters, and this is what it says on the maps, and even in their death certificates, it says they died, this person died in the area of 1079. That's all there is, 1079. And I chose this name, it was my idea, not just because we stick to the facts in 99% of the book, but also because it sounds the same, and the book is in Russian, English, Spanish, and German. So it's always 1079.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yes,
easy to
yes.
remember, and because the dead souls are 9, so it's kind of a ends on 9, and I'm a designer, so I designed the cover of my book, and I like it, and that's the best achievement of my life. I'm obsessed. I'm addicted with this. This keeps me moving. I'm going back to Dyatlov Pass in 3 days after our interview. I'm
so
going back
you go back to the actual scene where these hikers were found. How many times have you
every
done that?
year.
Yes.
Every year I go there.
Oh my gosh.
But
see.
not just a commemoration. It's not like, just to the monument and to something like that. I keep finding evidence. And it's not measuring the magnetic anomalies or the snow cover, or because this is all speculation. You can't prove that it happened. First, I educated myself what you can tell from the rings of the trees. In Siberia is a very special place where the trees are preserved for thousands of years, and they actually study them for the climate change and all this. It's a very rich database, and scientists are very interested in the dead trees in Siberia. And also, it was the luck of the beginner, I guess. I found a can manufactured in 58 where they're supposed to be just barefoot, without clothes and shoes, just they went to die there. Because maybe we should go back to what happened. Do you
Yes.
want to go there?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because this
Yes.
is
Let's do
what
that.
happened. When you have read the book and you're interested in something that you read in the book, but people don't even know what are we talking about.
Yes. Yeah,
So
that would be great. If you can tell our viewers what happened. And I think maybe you have a picture, I don't know if we can use it, of the hikers, actually, the people who were involved in this. If we can, that would be great. If not, we just want to hear the story from you.
Well, this is a very good idea. You already saw my face, right? You put the face to the voice, and now
Yes.
I just gather some pictures, and I believe it's going to be very, how to say, you're going to have impression not of me and my involvement, but who they were.
Yes,
And
that's good.
just think of me as a place, my site, not me, myself, but the site, a place where you can find the information for further, not investigation, but just to get acquainted with what did it say in the autopsy reports, we have exhumation, we have, so before I skip to the pictures, I just want to make a gist of the events, like, okay, they started, when they were found, and then I'll go into the pictures. Just 3 sentences. They started as they were students, and they were going on their break in winter after the exams, and everybody was looking forward this expedition, just like it's a vacation. And they were very happy and very healthy, and they knew each other, they were friends, and so they started on a route that it's no more difficult than many more groups. There were many groups going on similar and even more difficult and dangerous places, like further higher and things like that. So when the group started coming back, they didn't show up. No one thought much of it because the weather is bad. They didn't have any, I mean, it's no phones, no satellite phones, nothing. They were supposed to send a telegram when they come back, and they didn't. So at some point, they raised the alarm, the relatives, their friends. And it's weird that it's unprecedented search and rescue operation. No one ever looked for missing hikers with so many aircrafts, helicopters, military, sappers, convoy from the Gulag. I mean, like hundreds of people. It's unbelievable. So many people went to look for them. So they finally they found the tent on a very bare slope on that mountain that I mentioned. Well, actually, that mountain 1079, after years, we learned that the locals are calling it really Hulatsa, which means dead mountain, but they're calling it that not because people died there, although you hear so many legends about 9 pilots, 9 passengers, 9 mousy, 9 hunters, 9, always by 9. No one else died. It's just a hill, but nothing grows there. There's no animals, no game, no nothing. So it's a dead mountain because nothing grows there. It's a very windy. And they died right there on the top. So they found the tent. Second, okay, found the tent. So far, nothing strange. But the tent was cut from inside. There were bare feet, I mean, tracks of feet going down. And in 2 months, so they start finding the bodies. And the bodies were not very well dressed. They were dressed like in pajamas, like what you wear while you sleep in a tent in minus 50 degrees without a stove. So they were like, they were found a mile from the tent. So they cut the tent from inside, then they slowly walked down to the forest, they made a fire, and they died. But they were scattered all around, half naked, some of them bare butt naked. Some of them were with torn clothes, and someone else was wearing their clothes. So they exchanged clothes. After that, some of the clothes were found to be contaminated with radiation. After 2 more months, the last 4 were found, and this is where the weird trauma comes. But the strange thing is that so 3 of these 4 people found in the water, in the creek, had traumas like me, like flail chest, broken ribs, multiple fractures, high velocity trauma. You cannot break, and one had a caved in skull. We're not talking fracture. One had fracture, we're not counting this as a weird trauma, but one had caved in skull. And the pathologist at the time explained that the traumas like what you can see if someone is hit by a fast-moving vehicle. There are no roads and vehicles there, but this is how he explained a high-velocity trauma. And I know a lot about it because I had one.
You experienced that.
Yeah, high velocity is when you don't have any bruises, any marks on your skin. It's like you're just, your skin is not affected at all, but inside your soup, bone soup. This is what happens with bodies when they fall from high floors, jump from high, or were hit by something really big. And this is what happened to only 3 of them. Okay, that's the mystery. So now we go back, but it's not just that. I told you the framework. The weirdness, it's like, why the date on the cover of the case files is 2 weeks before they were missing, or no, there is a lot of weird stuff. Why are the pilots saying that they saw the tent and some bodies on a different place before they were found? Why is a nurse in the morgue in the nearest village with the morgue where they were taken? Why did she say that there were 6 of the bodies where she washed them personally? She washed 6 bodies that match 6 of the Dyatlov group, and then they disappeared. These bodies appeared again 1 month in the future, but she was not called on the case. She didn't even know that this is the same people. She just said that she washed people that match this description by the trauma she knows. And the pathologist, another pathologist looked at them and wrote the documents that they died natural causes. And I mean, that means not crime, there was no foul play. And no one knows where these bodies went, what happened to them. There are a lot of strange things in this case. They're only
So,
in the case file.
so to
Yes.
put this in context, Teddy, 9 people got into a tent. They went hiking. They got into a tent that will accommodate all 9 of them. But instead of getting out of the tent by unzipping it, they actually cut their way out of it, correct? That would indicate that there must have been some reason to do that. And that's kind of where the mystery starts, right? And then you
This is
go ahead.
one thing that I, as an expert, because this is what I have been called, this tragedy has 2 epicenters. Everybody speaks about the tent and what made them cut the tent and get out of the tent, but then why didn't they panic? Why didn't go in different direction as you do when you have an avalanche or something like that? Why didn't they even run? If there was an avalanche or if they were just escaping from whatever made them cut their tent, why were they walking abreast, not one after another like you do in the snow? Why were they walking abreast at a earshot distance in the dark, supposedly, without absolutely any sign of trauma? No one was limping, straying away. No one was dragged. Well, everybody's arguing about these things. Like right now, they're done experiments in the winter, in February, in -50, people walking in socks, carrying other people on their back, that this is possible to do in a mile. But whatever you show it's possible doesn't prove it happened, you know? So everybody's, all the theories that you're going to read about are what made these 9 people destroy their tent and go down for a cover in the forest. And I'm intentionally not saying running down to find cover. They were walking. But in this sentence, we presume that they were the ones that cut the tent, and we presume that the tracks are theirs. But I'll show you that they're not. They're okay. I paid. I spent money on this to pay a forensic traceologist who doesn't care about Dyatlov Pass at all, doesn't have a theory or anything. And I showed him the pictures, what we have. They're not forensically correctly done. No one was actually preserving the scene or making any pictures. Those are the pictures from the students that were sent to find their friends. It's so sloppy, the investigation, and what we have as I mean, there are only 2 expert conclusions, and this is the pathologist, the coroner that did the autopsies, and the tent was sent in a lab to be examined if the cuts are done from the inside. These are the only 2 experts that left any trace in the case files. But about these strange traces, at least one of them, you can clearly see the sole of a shoe with the heel. None of them wore such a shoe. And I showed that a traceologist, and he made many remarks how badly the photographs were made, because they were made by people that are not investigators. They were students. They were just kids. And he pointed and he showed that these are traces left by shoes. These are not their traces. This is not their tracks. And also, there's so many other details that makes this case weird. A flashlight was found on top of the tent without any snowflake on top of it. The tent was covered with 10 centimeters of snow, but you should see the place. This is always snow, even if it's not snowing, there is snow white out. The wind is taking the snow from the ground and just hitting your face with it. So there is always some storm going on there. Nothing could be preserved for a month because supposedly this old tent that could hardly hang on trees. This is how it's designed because it was stitched from two old tents together to fit 10 people. And its design and its whole life of this tent, it was hanging between trees. This is how they were hiking, spending the nights using the wood, the firewood from the forest and the water from the creeks. They had no business doing overnight on the slope. And this is not counting, they're not getting any kudos or points or certificate. And they could actually be disqualified if they do a dangerous overnight without any reason. Because after the expedition, they have to give an account of what happened, what they were doing. So, and if they say they spent the night on the slope, and they cannot lie about that because they were keeping a group diary, and this is how they were doing in the treks back then in the sports sections of the clubs. They had to keep track and make photos of everything that they encountered because they were going to places where no one else has been before. So it was very important to note what are the landmarks and what happened and how to, because this is helping the next groups that are going to go there, visit the place. So if they're going to spend the overnight on the hill, this is without any reason. They had to have the reason, and we don't see any of it because if there was a storm or an avalanche, because this is the official kind of the conclusion of the official investigation is that they had some overwhelming force, the natural force that they couldn't survive. And it's the first theory was a hurricane, then it was an avalanche, but not an avalanche, but a slab, because you can see the tent sticking out. But my point is, this tent, even without any natural force majeure, it cannot survive a month sticking like that because it wasn't even properly set with all of the security ropes and ties that you need to do if you're going to survive the night in this tent on this open, bare mountain ridge. You could sleep in the tent outside the tree line, but you have to secure it very well, and you have to have a reason to do that because other groups have been to places where just there's no forest. And on Dyatlov Pass, there is forest less than an hour on both sides of the ridge. It's a very not high ridge, and you only walk for 1 hour, and you decide to just put the tent there where you don't have any food, any wood, any water, any nothing. Why would you do that? Something happens, you destroy your tent and slowly go down on the way of the alleged avalanche. No one would escape something from nature going down on the most steep route down to the forest. It doesn't make sense when you look at it, when you go there and you see how many stones you can hide the tent behind and how many more the safe places you can put the tent on. And even if you have a reason to put the tent there, like some tornado you cannot see, and we have the weather reports that nothing like that took place on the night when the tragedy happened, but who knows? It's a remote place, and all we have are the reports from the nearest weather station. That tent wouldn't survive for a month. But to make that leap from this is where everything unraveled and started, and something frightened them, and they cut out the tent, and to make the leap that maybe that's not where they put their tent. That's a big, I mean, this is very
Yes.
hard to swallow. And you have to read the rest of the documents. You have to see
Yeah.
how many things don't make sense, because this tent was found before that. People knew about it before that. Not just the flashlight. We have traces of urination. I mean, you have storms and snowfall and all that for a month, and you still see the traces of someone pee there. How can that be? And even the Mansi, they said, I mean, even the people that were participating in the search, they said, oh, we saw the fan, we didn't touch anything. So,
So let's
Yeah.
summarize here as part of the mystery. So first of all, we've got the fact that we've got this tent that supposedly everybody was in that they cut their way out of. Then we find them walking single file,
no,
which
not single file. I'll see. This is gonna make. Does it make any sense?
yeah, that's good. That helped.
That's
See you
good.
better.
Maybe. So not in a single file. That's the weird thing, that they were going abreast, like
Oh, abreast.
Abreast.
Okay.
four next to each other, as if they were talking to each other. That's
Okay.
that's one
Right.
of the tracks, because if they were in a file, that means that they took a decision and they were going down, and they were going, and there was, you know, something suffering, they were going down. But the tracks look as if they were talking while they
Yeah.
were going down. And whatever the theories speak about, the paradoxical undressing, or they, you know, some animal attacked them or whatever, they maintained the decision to abandon their tent for over an hour. And that means that there was no panic, but whatever they were doing, they were discussing it, and they were doing it in the dark, in a very calm way, after the panicky cutting of the tent.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what, so I was saying that the theories that explain something startled them. Even I was talking, if you see Discovery Channel, where I'm the expert, the 2 episodes, back then I was thinking that maybe they saw something in the sky, because there are a lot of flying, glowing objects in the sky. It's
UFOs.
UFOs. It's usually normal for the area, but the ones that are described in the case file by the searchers, and even clips from the papers at the time, they were like, even the locals thought that there are too many and that's too much, and we haven't seen that. So there were a lot of flying things in the sky. So if the hikers saw something in the sky, they might have, because this has happened to the searchers. Someone was on duty or went out to pee, and he said, come over, there's something in the sky. So they jumped out of the tent the way they were sleeping, exactly the way that the group was found. And they were looking at the sky, and something was in the sky. And even there is a telegram that they asked the party, were there some rocket testing, and should they be afraid, because it's unsettling. They're looking for these people, and things are flying in the sky they don't know about. But nothing, no one replied anything, and no one died. And many people saw flying, and even to this day, many people keep seeing things in the sky. So maybe it drove them out of the tent. But then what made them cut it out and go down in their pajamas? And then everybody stops here. Everybody talks about what made them leave the tent. But then, come on, they died down in the forest. They were absolutely okay, other than undressed, without all the clothes that they needed. But they made it fine to the bottom of the ravine, and they made the fire, and they made the bivouac. What happened after that? Well, I mean, I'm not saying that it's easy to survive in your pajamas, but at least they should survive
don't think
the
I'd
night.
like to try that.
And also, I'll show you with the pictures because we're gonna start showing you some faces and photos from the trek. Okay, this is very important because this is exactly what's specific for the case. Listen to me. Two people from that group were supposed to go with another group, but the other group's route was longer, more difficult, and they just, both of them, this one was the girl that everybody was in love with, but not the man who she was in love with. He was in the group too, so they just broke up. Anyway, she's beautiful, Zina. So Zina and Zolotaryov and that weirdo that joined the group the last moment, and he was much older than them. They were supposed to go with the other group, but they joined Dyatlov. In that other group, listen to this, their tent burned down on their second day of the trek.
Really?
They were without a tent, no tent. And on top of that, one of them burned his shoes. All mistakes. But they continue. And they made the first two winter ascents of two mountains in Siberia, Neroika and Sablia.
Wow.
And they came back and just one of them had the flu. So I'm saying that much worse things can happen to these hikers and still survive. They're in their prime. They're in a very good physical condition. And even by the pathologist, he just describes they're in perfect health. And then again, and other groups had much worse luck, to call it. So this trek was survivable. What we know about this trek, if you cut down your tent and go down and you make it to the bottom of the ravine inside the wood, inside the woods, there is no wind and you can make up the fire. But the fire, see, every single thing about this, it's weird. Like what did the fire look like? Well, it wasn't much of a fire. It was just one log, big log, that burned for 20 minutes and then died. No one was feeding the fire, nothing. And the first two bodies found frozen, they were in a position like someone was dragging them by the fire, actually behind the tree, and took their clothes like they were butt naked. But someone dragged them. So no one is saying anything like, okay, that's weird, because everyone believes that people died and their friends start ripping off their clothes and putting them on themselves, and they hid them behind the tree so they don't look into their faces. No. If you start looking at this, that's not the behavior of someone so young, because the adrenaline, when there is something bad happening, the adrenaline can keep you for a long time. You don't start ripping off the clothes of your friends so you can wrap your legs.
No.
That's not first. Even one of the bodies was found with 2 watches, and they said, well, he took it for keepsake from his dead friend. No, that's not your thought. What are you going to report to his parents? That's not what you do. You try to survive, and they could have survived unless something very dramatic kind of interfered with their physical and emotional state. And this is when I had the breakthrough, but I want to leave that to the end. If you want, we can go to some pictures.
Yeah, do you want to show us some pictures of the 9 hikers? Can you do that?
Okay, so I'm
or
going
will you do that?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to still explain what you're looking at. Okay, so do you see the monument?
No.
Don't see anything yet.
Not yet. Okay, I had to hit the share button.
There we go. Yes.
Okay. This rock for the first time. The thing that it's on the top, on the very top, was put there after they died, after the incident. We're not sure. This is where they went over the ridge. This is exactly over the ridge of the Dyatlov Pass. This is where the monument plaque is of with their names of the 9 hikers, but we're sure that their bodies were hidden to the left. If you see the little kind of, do you see my mouse?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Okay, so here we have pictures of that. Nearby this rock, they call it the boot rock because on the other side it looks like a boot, was the landing site of the helicopters. So everything, they were hiding here from the wind until the helicopters arrived. So I'm going to start going faster so we can have some more. I'm not sure. Okay, so
You have a picture of the hikers?
this is the plaque. It was
Okay.
put there 4 years after the incident. This says their names, and there were 9.
And there they are.
Group. I have to mention that they started 10 people, and one of them got his sciatica inflamed, so he turned back at the last possible place where someone could help him with his backpack. It was a horse-driven sled. So there were actually 9 and 10 at the beginning. And tomorrow, on June 19, he has a birthday, a heavenly birthday, because he's dead. He couldn't explain anything. He was maybe the last one to learn that his friends didn't make it back from the past, because he went after he returned from the trek, he went in his native village, and he only learned about the tragedy when the military came with a helicopter to pick him up to go to identify the bodies. So he's a very gentle, delicate soul. He was such a nice person. He thought, okay, maybe when I'm talking about urine, we should be looking at his picture, not the rest. Let's get back to the ones that died on the Dyatlov Pass. So the leader is right in the middle. That's Dyatlov. Something about the Russian names is that their nicknames sometimes don't look anything like the name. So Igor goes by Gosya. Sometimes, because people are asking me why is Georgy Yuri like this guy Krivonishenko. We always talk about the 2 Yuris that were found under the cedar, but his actual name is Georgy. But then when Semyon Zolotaryov introduced himself as Sasha, everybody said, well, he's a spy. He doesn't want them to know his name. So everything is very...
And he's a lot older than the rest of the group.
Yeah, he could be his father. Well, there you can see their ages, the ages when they died, and he was, well, that's the other very sad thing. He died exactly on his birthday. So I believe that he was actually 37. He died on his birthday, and Luda Dubinina was buried on her birthday. So speaking of
coincidences.
So so now that's the leader, Igor Dyatlov. He was known for being very... he liked to take risks and to find solutions, very technical savvy. He was a good leader. People loved him, but he was a little weird. He kept to himself. You can tell by his... This is... he's usually not smiling. This is the most amicable photo that you can find of Igor Dyatlov. But everybody wanted to go with him. And this is beautiful Zina. So she broke up with that guy. This is Zina, this is Doroshenko. He went on this is Doroshenko. So they broke up, and Dyatlov was found, the leader was found with a photo of Zina in his jacket pocket. So we believe he had an eye for her and feelings for her, but nothing from their correspondence, because now we know everything. Someone wrote personal letters, everything. So she said that's the guy she had a broken heart over. He looks weird. I mean, on some pictures, he looked completely different from what you see here. But this is what he looked like when he started. I don't know. We have these pictures of him. He was kind of. She writes in her diary that he's a playboy. She wrote to her friend, how I'm gonna go on a trek with Yuri if we're not together anymore. And at the beginning, when he was trying to give her his mittens or something to help her, she was rejecting his gestures. And then all of the group told them, you're not gonna do that on this trek. You're not gonna behave like kids. So they were looking after a fire on one of the nights, and Zina wrote, oh, Yuri's such a playboy, and he's, and that's the other girl, Luda, and I'm broken like her. And let me see if I have the pictures of her incident. This is Luda. Here she is. On a previous trek, actually in 58, she was shot in the leg by friend hiker, because on some of the hikes, not on this one, they carried weapons and they were shooting game for food. They were actually hunting. And in one of these treks, she was hurt. She was shot. Like, they were careless with the weapon. So on the trek with Dyatlov, she couldn't carry a big backpack. Even her parents told her not to go. They didn't want to let her go on this trek because she wasn't fully healed, but she really wanted to go. So she went. And so that's Thibault. He's weird because, I mean, his life, his parents died in a gulag. His Thibault Brignol is his name. That's a French name. They even had like emblem. It's an old French family, but they were repressed by the Soviets in the Soviet Union regime, and his parents died in the camps, the forced labor camps.
Mm-hmm.
And, so he overcame all this with, he was very poor, overcame with a great sense of humor. He was talented, very talented. Here he is. He was playing the mandolin. He was drawing, always drawing, and they were making their own maps. This is a map not from this trek, because we didn't find what they were drawing on this trek. Many documents are missing. And we don't know if this is because of the sloppy investigation, or just it was winter and everything got in the water, was destroyed. That's why we keep finding things on the location. So he drew beautiful maps, but on this particular trek, he wasn't the one that was drawing the maps. That's strange too. The maps were drawn by Krivonishenko. This guy is also very strange. We didn't find the maps that he drew, the crocs. This guy, he graduated from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, and at the time of the incident, he was working at the Chelyabinsk 44, which was a nuclear plant, and they had this huge Chernobyl-like accident, tragedy, and actually all of the contamination of the clothes most likely came from that incident, because he was participating in the cleaning and the aftermath and everything, and he resigned from his job. So we have the resignation letter, but his nuclear plant place of work kept making sure his body was identified. They wanted to make sure he didn't run away to the Americans or with the secrets or something. This tragedy, it happened in 57, Kishtim. And we now know about this tragedy from the reports, from the Alamo reports. This is the movie, the Oppenheimer, right? There was a movie.
Oh,
Yes.
Oppenheimer. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly about this time when the Russians and the Americans were looking at each other, what they were doing, and the Americans did something, and the Russians were in a hurry to do the same thing. So they put two elements next to each other and they exploded. They nuked themselves, basically. And we don't know anything. We know a lot about Chernobyl, but don't know about this one, although they were similar in scale because of the secrecy at the time.
Yeah.
And so basically in one of them, the other one, this guy was working at the time in that plant, that enterprise. So that's a very cool member of the Dyatlov group, Slobodin. He was very tough. He came back from a trip with his father over the many dangerous places with he was he had fracture on his skull, not the caved in skull, but the fracture. So many theories say that if some people attack them and threaten them, Slobodin is most likely the one that would fight back. And that's why he was hit with the butt of a rifle or something. But that didn't make him go down. It's like what the boxers, when they get a hit in the head, they can continue function and walk, win and fight, but they have some problems after that when the trauma starts affecting their brain. So he had a fracture. He was a very cool guy, this one. They were all cool, but he was tough and really not looking for trouble. He would fight back. They will all fight back if someone, I mean, you have to overcome 9 young people in their prime with 2 girls present. They would protect them. So this is Slobodin. Now, this is also his enigma because after you graduate, you are sent to work somewhere. And from Sverdlovsk at the time, which is now Ekaterinburg, he was sent to Moscow, which was like winning the lottery. Like that's such a lot to be sent to Moscow.
Yeah.
But he came back. Why? Why did he give it up? In Moscow, he was friends with some kids of really secret scientist level professors. So he was friends with, he had access to radioactive materials, to secrets. And the speculation is that maybe the KGB offered him to become an agent and he had to, but he worked to study in Moscow, but he had to be like a regular student. So he came back to finish his education in Sverdlovsk, so he can be an officer of I don't know what forces. I don't know. This is all speculation. We can explain a lot of his biography. That's why he's one of the candidates to be a KGB recruiter, to have a secret mission or something like that. That's him. And that's the older guy.
Yeah, the older guy.
See, the older guy was a teacher in physical education. And note his long sleeves. He was found with many tattoos, but none of his family or mother, he didn't really have a family, but in modern days, we found out that he was living with a woman and they had a baby without being married, which at the time was okay. I mean, it was actually encouraged because many men died during the war. So the women wanted to have kids even if they couldn't marry the man. It was normal, but not what they did. They gave up the baby actually right before the trek. They broke up, and the woman, I think I have her picture. All this we know, that's not her. He was a womanizer. He liked his women. That's not her. That's
That's a
the
baby.
woman. That's the baby. That's the woman he had the baby with, and she has two other daughters from a previous marriage. So she has more kids, but this is the baby from Zolotaryov, and they gave it up for adoption. We don't know what happened with the baby. We don't know where that baby is.
So I'm going to be conscientious of our time here. So maybe we should get into some of the theories about what happened to these folks.
I'll go faster. Okay, Yuri Yudin, that's the 10th member. That's him after the trek, when he was nailing this is the boot rock, and he was going back in every year of his life when he could, he went back to location every year. This is where Ural mountain is, and it's actually dividing Asia from Europe.
Yeah.
And this is how they started. So they went first with train, then with bus, then with truck, then with horse-driven sled, then they were skiing, and this is what the problem. This is the 1079 where their tent was found. This is their final destination, Otorten. This is where I go this year. I have never been to Otorten, but now I'm going with the metal detector, trying to find out, didn't they reach that? At the time, the way you prove that you have been to a place is to leave a note. And when the search started, they found the note of a previous group that was here during the summer. Dyatlov group wanted to make the first winter ascent, because many, even I don't know, New York Times in their article say the first ascent to Otorten. No, they found a note on Otorten from a previous group, and previous group, even the group that was, I read their journals, they found a note that someone was there a week before them. So many groups have been there, but not during winter. And this is very fast. So you just see it like a movie, like a slideshow. This is how their trek went. So they're still preparing. This is the bus with a different group. They were jumped. This is the last postcards they sent from the last post office, where they were supposed to also check in on their way back, and they never made it. So this is their last written documents to their families and to the. Anyway, so here they're still packing up, getting on the back of the truck. Here is Yudin, who is going to get sick from the wind on this truck. This is actually the picture where most of them only, and the photographer is Tibo. So no, Tibo is here. So actually Krivonishenko is the photographer, and this is 8 of them. Okay, so here, when you go into the wilderness, you go through logging camps, which are occupied at some years when they have work, and then they get abandoned even to this day. So this is the last such a logging camp where there were other people. They were usually, you could be sent to the gulag even if you're not a real criminal, just because you're reading a book or said something or something like that. Many people, because their lives were destroyed, found a job, and even after they were freed from the gulag, they stayed there. So those are free men that just worked there. Some of them have been prisoners, some of them haven't been, just, and they're making a lot of pictures. These guys with a red hat and beard. So again, here the loggers from District 41. All these camps have just a number. District 41 is this one. Because people are asking me, why is it the last place where they were called Second Norton? This is how they call the places. So now this is the last time when they have a support. This is the horse-driven sled that, and the snow. Actually, the temperatures were very warm, and the snow was sticking to their skis all the time. They advance on the frozen riverbed, and at some point they have to, those are the Mansi, the locals, dry skin from animals on these wooden constructions. And this is the Second Norton. This is Yuri Yudin. He's going to take some core samples and go back with the sled. They're saying goodbyes to Yuri Yudin. This is Yuri Yudin, who is going back. This is Zina saying goodbye. Okay, so now there are 9 left. So look at the evidence that we have. He's making jokes. This is Tivo. Look at them. Look at them. Look. There is no sense of trouble, that there's any difficulty, but still all of the films and everything, if you compare them, there is a missing camera. There are some very important. This is Doroshenko. This is the guy that Zina was in love with. I believe this is Tibo. This is Zolotaryov, very moody picture. This is Labas. It's an important thing because when you go to some place and come back, it's smart to leave some of the supplies in a place where you can find it on your way back, and this is your food for the way back. So there is no point on dragging it to the peak and back if you're not going to traverse, but you're going to go back. So the Mansi built these platforms, raised these platforms, and called them labas. So this is how this is the Mansi labas, but this is the Mansi writing on those are the indigenous people that live there. So they say in their diaries that they're going to leave supplies in a labas, but their labas was found later on in the ground, marked with nothing. I mean, it was marked with a stick, but there is no way they could find it on the way back because it was in the forest. It was weird because it wasn't on any platform. And now
you mentioned the Mansi. Wasn't that the indigenous group that lived there? There was some indication as part of the theories about what happened here that they might have been responsible.
Of course, well, they lived there.
Yeah.
They should be looked into. But see, one thing that Mansi would never do is leave alcohol, money, clothes, shoes, knives, weapons, everything in the tent.
So that's not a very good theory to explain what happened to these people then, that the indigenous people attacked them.
It's not just that. If they did something, there's so few of them, they know what they were doing. We would never find the bodies. I mean, in the state in which, first, they're not aggressive people, they're drunks and they're in poor health. But the theory is that it's a religious killing, either because there were women with them or they found their gold or ritualistic. But they have never done anything like that. So now I want to draw your attention to the following sequence of photos, because now we're going to get into the Yeti, why the Yeti killed them. So this Joker, Thibault, he put his camera on a tripod and start shooting himself like that. This made it on the cover of many theories that this is how they died or he's dead. He's just this one. He's not in trouble. He's just making
goofing around.
Goofing around. He's asking someone to help him get up. Now he's getting up, and now someone is taking his camera, which is still on a close-up, because this is how they shot the following pictures and made this one. Look at this one. Have you seen? This is the Yeti.
Yeah, now that's one I've seen before, and
Yes.
Gwen was, I'm a Bigfoot guy, so I was interested in this.
But if you see the photo, I have cleaned it up a little bit here, but if you see, you can see the tracks. So Yeti actually came from, it's not following them, he came from the point where that photo was taken. But that's the Yeti photo. You have to make up your mind what you see. This photo, you will find theories that Zina is feeding invisible elf here. Or someone edited out whatever creature she's feeding. She's just reaching out for sugar cubes. for the tea. So now we're getting into now it's really windy. This photo was made before the last entry where Igor Dyatlov, made the note that the wind is as from the jets of a taking off plane. So this is how hard, how strong the wind is. So they tried to make it over the ridge, but the wind, and this looks like they're discussing something, but that something is not that important because no one from this group pays any attention. Only Kolevatov is following their exchange. But anyways, it looks like they disagree on something. This is the tent. Look at that tent. This is the last night we have any document of them. They made a note that they're spending the night in the woods and they're gonna go over the pass on the next day. And we don't have anything after that. So this is how the tent is supposed to hang between trees. They're
So
joking.
in terms of theories that we were talking about here as to what happened, probably the Yeti is the theory, but not a very good one. Probably
I'm
the
going,
immense.
just bear with me and I'm getting
Okay.
to the theories. I have a whole
Okay.
folder with theories, visuals. So here, whoever sleeps under the stove that's suspended in the tent gets really hot and burns the jacket. So right now, the Slobodin is joking. He's actually wearing the burned padded jacket of Krivnushenko, who is cursing. He's like cursing to, he doesn't like that. This is one of the last photos. And now we get to this photo, which is the other weird thing, that we don't have the negatives of the films of these two photos. This is considered to be their last two photos from the place where they're digging for the tent, but we don't have the rest of the photos of this film. So they're missing diaries. Kolevatov was keeping a diary. There's no, it's not found among the belongings, and also not all of the cameras and films is found. This is the last photo of one of the films, and people see the eye of the evil or something like that. And to me, it's and most of sane people say that this is the technology last click that you make before you rewind the film before taking it out. You have to know the old ways of using the camera for this one, but many people see a lot of things here. Also, you can see that this is not fully circle, it's a technology thing. But anyways, and now it's the big search. So a lot of military going there looking, they don't know where to look for it. So this is one way to go, another way to go. This is where the tent was found, but so this is a total, we don't know. They were supposed to go this way and come back this way. So we don't know. This is what it looks, the place where the tent was found. It's not steep. It's nothing. Look how close the wood is. The woods are. And they went down this way, the tracks, and the bodies are found here. I'm going to show you a lot of photos. So this is how the tent was found. It was propped on skis in the ski poles. This tent cannot survive if it's pitched like that for a month in this wind. But this is how they found it. So this is, they dismounted. Everything was put in a big pile. Nothing was protocoled, classified. Inventory was done only after everything was flown to the nearest airfield. Everything is put into backpacks by chance. And after that, Yudin was identifying the objects by whose backpack they were taken from. He couldn't know everything, what belongs to whom. I mean, some of the items, yes, he left also some of the clothes after leaving, but he couldn't know what Zolotaryov brought with him because he was a new guy, the older guy. And now here, I will show you here are the tracks. These famous tracks that we're talking about here, you see, those are actually inside, but they're here. This is not a barefoot to me. Look, this was described like tracks from bare feet.
Hmm. Hard to tell.
Look,
Mhm.
how is this of barefoot?
Yeah.
But okay, here, this is the way they were risen up by the loose snow that was blown by the wind around. Because when your warm foot tramples, like steps on the snow, it gets compacted. It's like the same way they file out numbers on weapons that they were used in crimes, and when they were filed out and to hide the number, the registration
Mhm.
number gun, they put some chemicals, and then the material around the number reacts in a different way, and you can still see it, because it was, when it was stamped, the material, the metal underneath got depressed, and in a different, it had a different structure than the metal around it. Same mechanism is why this track starts sticking out from the snow, because the rest was blown by the wind. But still, for a month, I mean, they made a lot of experiments were made about the Dyatlov incident, and when they tried to leave tracks like that at the same time of the year where the incident happened, the tracks were preserved no more than 3-4 days, and we're talking
Hmm.
about a month.
You know, it seemed like I read that some of the bodies that were found had traces of radiation. So what's the explanation for that?
The Kishtim disaster. Well, it was hard to find clothes. They were not glowing head to toe. There were just 3 pieces of clothing that were contaminated. So the people that were working with radioactive materials got careless and brought their sweaters to the hike. There were only 2 sweaters and pants, 1 pair of pants. So this is the fire.
Hmm.
This is the cedar. This is where the bodies were found. Now this is the cedar. This is a real picture. This is the first picture of the bodies, the 2 bodies. They were naked. This is the 2 Doroshenkos. This is Igor Dyatlov. This is Zina. This is the Labas that I told you, where they left their supplies. This is Slobodin. I'm telling you, we have a lot of okay, so if it was a hurricane, why still his cap on his head?
Hmm.
These are clothes that led to the discovery of the last 4. And this here, they're digging. They're digging. They're digging. They're digging. They found the den, the flooring. They made their bed with branches and put some clothes, but the bodies were not found there. So they made a bivouac. And here they were found in the creek. This is Luda. These are the 3 men. This is their position, how they were found, the last 4. And Luda, Tibo, and Zolotaryov had the horrific traumas. Like many, I think I may have the. Okay, so this is
Like
the
they
whole
were hit by a car, like
yeah.
they were hit by a vehicle.
This
So
is
tell me,
the dentist. Those are the
what do you,
tracks. This is where the bodies were, and this is the monument with the star. Yeah, ask me.
and it's just conscientious about time here. So what do you think is the best theory to explain all this? Or is there one?
Wait a minute. I still want to go to the theories from what I gather for you. So theories, one of the, I'm briefly going to go through the most popular ones and not the insane ones. So this is the Am I still with you?
Yes, we're seeing
Okay, so the slab.
pictures.
Yeah, so this is the snow slab. They say that, I mean, the people that talk about this theory, believe in this theory, is that when they leveled the snow for the tent, they actually broke a big hard snow that was above them, and it started sliding. And when they heard that something is sliding and actually crushing them, they broke off. No, actually, the people that like this theory, they said that the snow crushed and caused their traumas, and that the rest carried them. The three were hurt at the tent, and the rest carried them down the slope. This is the snow slab theory. Lightning something that scared them, but how they died, I don't know. This is the infrasound. Well, all these theories are saying what made them insane enough to cut out their way from the tent. Infrasound makes you some kind, frequencies or something can make you feel very disturbed and want to get away right away, not knowing what are you doing, change your behavior, not knowing what you do, basically. But this is a gravity fluctuation that they were sucked out from or some UFO scared them out, the Yeti theory, that this is Rusumacha, I don't know, some kind of a wolverine that got attracted by the smell of their food and entered the tent, and then they can release a very strong smell as a defensive attack, and they cut out the tent because they couldn't breathe. A very serious researcher is a friend of mine. He's pushing the theory that the reindeer stomped on top of them, that
Really?
got scared and run over the tent, and that the trauma matched the hooves of a reindeer. We have the stove that suffocated or exploded or something, but the stove was found packed in the case in the tent, so it wasn't used. They didn't have any wood on the ridge. If we presume that this is where they died, I mean, this is where they spent the night, then they didn't have the stove on. The Mansi, religious, the Mansi were actually, they took part in the search. They, this is the some rock that people say the Mansi, it's a sacred place for the Mansi, and this is a picture from the Dyatlov group cameras, and there's some drawings, supposedly. There are no drawings there. Some people see drawings, like seeing on the bottom of a coffee cup or something. They see drawings here that are, so this is on top of a Torten, and people say that Torten also is a sacred place, and they didn't want the group to go there. I'm going there this in 3 days.
You better be careful.
Yes, be careful.
Yeah.
We have to be careful in general in life, but careful not about our life, careful with people, because we don't know which day is our last ones, and we don't want to live on the wrong foot, and we always have to be careful. We don't know, life is very sudden.
Good point.
Okay, there is a movie called Dyatlov Pass. It's a very nice one. They say about that Zolotaryov had the ring, something. I mean, that they stole gold from the Mansi, and that's why they were. Okay, there is a 3-volume book about how they were on a secret mission, and they had to release something with poisonous gas, and then straight rocket pierced the what the balloon, and they inhaled this poisonous gas, and then the search was delayed on purpose, so the gas cannot be detected in their autopsies, and that they were basically kamikaze. There are theories that they were run over by these snowmobiles. This is a document where it says that on the 19th of February, they died on the 1st, but the only escapees, runaways from the Gulag in that time of the year in 59 were on February 19th. And actually that happened because their convoy, the people that were guarding them went to look for the missing hikers. That's why they run away, but they were caught. It's Siberia. Where do you run away? Other theories say that Zolotaryov went berserk because jealousy. He liked Zina. I don't know. He didn't like them and wanted to kill them. And here is what I made. I mean, this is the original cartoon, and I redrew it to show that all of the theories actually refer to what happened around the tent. It's like the avalanche, the UFO, the hurricane, the Yeti, and everything. But no one goes down where the body were found and just explain how they died. So according to the original cartoon, I think you should be more explicit here in step 2. Then a miracle occurs. Well, how did they die? I mean, if we're going to build a theory, if something made them leave the tent in such a way, then what happened down in the ravine? Why 3 of them were smashed and the rest are in such a condition? Like, why didn't they survive? Why did they let the fire die? Why did they exchange clothes? Why? Nothing makes sense down where actually the bodies were found. I want to go, okay, so now, because we're conscious of the time,
Yes.
I want to show you my theory, okay? So this is actually the other group that their tent burned down. This is Igor. This is how they were doing the tents. This is actually, okay, here I wanted to show how you pitch a tent when there are no trees around. So all these ropes, how you have to secure the tent, and you actually find some hole to put it in, not right here on the slope where there's winds and everything. You had to carry woods from the nearest forest. This is Igor Dyatlov actually on a different trek, where he had all his load was firewood because they were spending the night out of the wood area. This is Igor Dyatlov again. This is what their masks were. This is a face mask for the snow. So a guy got hit not on this track. This is a different track. This is Igor Dyatlov and one of his mates. This is how the tent was pitched, the stove, how they suspended the stove inside. They didn't have zippers. It was just a curtain. So it was really easy to get out. At least one of them should have gotten out through the entrance. There was just a curtain. And so what, conscious of the time, okay, so what my revelation was that what can cause these traumas, having in mind my incident and something that happened here in Bulgaria, a tree fell over a tent. And what struck me as a fact is that when a tree falls on top of a tent, someone can get killed on the spot and another person right next to it can just walk away. That's why the traumas, this can explain why are the traumas so different. Why someone died there 20 minutes, according to the coroner, 20 minutes after the blow, and the rest were almost unscathed. Or why is there a bruise on the back of Zina like a baton? Well, it looks like a branch to me. Also, the burns on the feet of Krivonishenko, which some of the theorists explain a KGB type of torture. I think this is the suspended stove that fell when the tree hit the tent. So according to our theory, we were looking, okay, so what we can explain very easily the traumas with the fallen tree, but the tent was not found under a tree. Why is the bodies were found there? So if the tent was there together with the bodies, we wouldn't talk about this case. No one would know about this case because it would be just a tree fell on top of the tent and killed the guy. That's it. Everything makes sense. If you put the tent where the bodies were, everything makes sense because they would have lit the fire just in calm times, put the flooring next to the river to wash their clothes, pots and feet and face and everything. This is their camp. And also there is a lot of activity like cut branches, no knife was found, a lot of activity that theorists say that they went crazy or blind. They didn't see what they were doing because it doesn't explain people freezing, going to die with all the activity around them, where they just curve and die from hypothermia next to a dying fire. That's not what the scene looks like.
Evidence doesn't show that.
So I said, well, trees. Aren't there trees there? Why aren't we looking for trees? So I'm the only one that's going back there and looking for a tree. And I found a tree. But then why? Who moved the tent? So we started, and this is where Igor Pavlov, my co-author, he said, well, it's not the Mansi. There are other people there. And those were the geologists. They were having big villages. They were looking for uranium. And we're the first ones to find documents that show that they were surveying from the air and taking core samples from exactly the place where the Dyatlov group went by. This is the logging camp 41, where they have pictures from with the loggers. This is where they were surveying. And we found the dates, the year, and even flying maps exactly on top of the Dyatlov Pass. So they were geologists. We're not saying they killed them. Why would they kill some innocent hikers? And there's so many other groups there. But what we're saying, those are actual documents that we found in the archives of the
Sounds to me like the Dyatlov Pass mystery continues.
Yeah, it does. And briefly, so we believe that they were spotted from the air before the alarm was raised they were sent to the morgue, at least the bodies that were found. And this is the nurse that remembers washing 6 very dirty bodies of people that were underdressed and were broken with broken head. And this is the pathologist that looked at them at the time. And this is the route of another group that was local, that they knew about, and they started actually questioning from the point where the other group started, because they thought it's the Shunkov's group. There was another group that was nearby. And this explains the earlier date on the cover of the files, because they were looking for the other group. But when the other group came back saying, and they just came back, they just moved the papers to the new file.
How convenient, huh? Teddy, we've run out of time, unfortunately, today. Maybe you would come back on another date after you've been to Dyatlov Pass again and share whatever your new findings would be. Is that be something you'd be interested in doing?
I would very glad do that, because I'm going to find something. I have this feeling, and I'm even going to morgues, and I can explain I can explain their traumas and everything. I can map it around a tree that fell down. Just to get our audience intrigued, the book that I wrote won the Russian Detective Award. Do you see this? Am I still sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
right? So I'm just coming from Moscow, and the Russians appreciated the book and the findings and the theories. So I'm going back. This is what the book looks like, and it's available in 4 languages. So I'm just saying that I'm the expert. I know what I'm doing. I'm not just looking to confirm my theory. I'm going
Right.
there, and I brought back core from a tree, the last ring showing the dendrologist, a professor from the dendrology department in the university in Bulgaria. He analyzed it, and the last ring is from 58. And on the photos from February, this tree is already down. And then I found also cans in the ground that were manufactured 58, and I visited the plant that manufactured them. They said that only tourists could buy those because the searchers were given from the ghost reserve, the military reserve, and they were bigger in a different type cans. So I'm digging out evidence, and I really I have a calling that I'll find more going back. So it will be my pleasure to share it with you when I come back.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we
Thank
hope
you.
you do.
You're
Thank
very
Yes.
you.
welcome.
Thank you so much for being on the show with us today. And if you're listening to this podcast, we remind you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Gwen, what's coming up next on Anomalies?
Okay. Thank you, Teddy.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right. So we'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
You'll hear from me on Facebook, okay? When I come
Okay,
back.
good. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Bye-bye.
And thanks for listening. Take care.